Tonight I want to talk to you about a subject that I wish I would never have to talk to you about. Have you ever had a day when you wish you could just go back to bed and pull the covers over your head and wake up and it would only have been a dream? That's how I felt on Friday. I'm sure most of you in this church know what I'm talking about. Most of you are aware of the incidents at Sandy Hook School in Newtown, Connecticut. Since we have a variety of ages in this church tonight, as I did last night, I'm going to try to be as clear, but also as sensitive to the younger people in the church today. When I heard the news, being from Connecticut, and people calling me and asking me if I had any relatives in Newtown, which I don't, I became more and more overwhelmed with just the tragedy of such a situation. How in God's name can within this country tragedy after tragedy after tragedy that's involving multiple killings, how can we allow it to continue? At one time, I used to ask, why does God allow this? I don't ask that anymore. Because God's not the one making these decisions. God is not the one who's helping us create a culture of violence and death. We have to look to ourselves. And you kids have to look to yourselves because you're the future leaders of this country. And what we do together right now is going to have a tremendous effect on you as the youth of the United States. And we all in this church, each and every one of us, has a responsibility to work together, to not look outside, but to look to ourselves and ask ourselves, how is it that I can work to turn this around? How is it that I can work to make this place that we call home a happier and safer home? This morning I read the Connecticut newspaper online, and one lady said, "Where was God in that classroom when all this was happening?" Another person answered her and said, "Remember, we took God out of the classroom." And maybe that's part of it. I don't know. And I don't think I can come up with quick and easy answers because I can't. I wish I could. But I do know one thing. I am convinced that each and every one of us, if we decide, we can make this world a safer and better place. In particular, this morning I was going around, I was watching the different news stations just to see how they were reporting it. And on Fox News, they had a commentator questioning a colonel in the Army. And he was a teacher, or had taught, at West Point. He taught psychology there. And he just wrote a book. And a good part of this book deals with something that has always driven me crazy over the years. And that's video games. He said that the video games that you kids are playing today are desensitizing you to killing and to violence. That the videos that you watch, which are the rage today evidently, are an instrument of desensitizing you. You don't feel it anymore. It becomes so part and parcel of your everyday life. It's not unspeakable anymore. I hate video games, and I always have. And believe me, it's not for lofty reasons, because I haven't seen a video game. I have no idea what you watch. I'd rather talk than sit and play with the machine. Maybe I talk too much, and maybe I should play video games every so often. But I enjoy talking, and I don't enjoy sitting there pushing little buttons. And sometime when I'm home on vacation, I see my young great-nephews doing it. I say to myself, I don't even, it's unfathomable. But as this colonel spoke this morning, I didn't realize that video games have ratings. I didn't realize that you could have an X rating on a video game because of the violence. But evidently, those are the ones that everybody wants to watch. I talked to somebody today, and they do this with their grandchild. I guess you play a game, you don't even have to be in the same room, the same house with one another. And you say something and the other one answers, it's sort of creating a story. And she said to me, every response that my grandson gives is violent. It has to do with war, it has to do with killing. How much can we expose ourselves to this and expect the world to be a nonviolent place? It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And I'm convinced of it. And sometimes because I can't convince other people, I feel like I'm a failure. Maybe I didn't say it right. Maybe there's another way of putting it. Maybe I'm being just old-fashioned. Maybe it's a lot of things. But no. After this week, I'm more and more convinced that if we, you and me, don't decide that we're going to work at this, God help us. I think we all have our rights. And I think one of those rights that we all have is to live in a peaceful and safe place where little children should be able to go to school and be safe. And it's beyond me. And I know people don't like when I say this, but it's absolutely beyond me why we as a country allow these assault rifles that can kill people, and a majority of people in just one swell swoop, which was the instrument of choice for Sandy Hook, and the instrument of choice for so many of the tragedies that we as a nation have experienced, it seems, very close in proximity. For me, the Gaudete was taken out of today. There was no joy in my heart as we celebrated the third Sunday of Advent. There was no pink vestments, but rather I wore the most somber color that our liturgical calendar allows me to wear. And it's the first time that since I've been ordained, I've never, ever thought of wearing black vestments until today. So I ask you, tonight, look to yourself. This isn't fantasy, and this isn't just me getting up here and ranting and raving. But I think we're talking about the very roots of our society that are being affected. And I ask you to help me find a way of dealing with this. And in turn, I pledge to try to help you also find a way of dealing with this. Because that's what a Christian community is all about.